So in the health journey, systems are so important. They allow us to get benefit in our health journey without solely relying on our willpower. So we're going to explore systems. How do we create a system and what is the benefit of a system? That's what we're doing in this episode. Thank you for joining me. Hey, if you're new to me, I'm Dr. Dwain Woode. That's Wood with an E. The E stands for endocrinology. And you are joining me on my 100-day walk to consistency. Now, we are doing it a little differently because the weather is bad outside, but I am here on my elliptical and we're going to spend a few minutes kind of just talking through. Now, before we jump in, I want to remind you that consistency is your superpower. It is the thing that will help you to be resilient. It will help you to focus, and it provides a structured way of achieving those goals that we want. So continue every day. We're adding another piece to the puzzle. We're building a better, more resilient version of ourselves, and we are moving ourselves in the direction of success. And welcome to day number 41. So what are systems and why are they important in a health journey? Well, systems are a repeatable set of processes that you do that allows you to automate and make things automatic so that you don't have to constantly make decisions and you don't have to constantly be overwhelmed, feel like you're overwhelmed. One of the things, I guess a key point about systems is that they allow us to take this health journey and allow us to be consistent. When we're talking about consistency, it is the key to a lot of what we need to do to be successful. You've heard me say before, and I'll say it again, that often we don't succeed not because we don't have drive, not because we don't have vision, not even because we don't have a desire. We don't succeed because we don't have structure and we don't have a plan, right? We don't have something that's going to allow this to happen in an automated way. When we talked about neuroplasticity, you'll recall that one of the benefits of neuroplasticity is once we make those connections, those neurons that have been redesigned, reconnected, that they get stronger. And over time, we don't have to be thinking about it anymore. It's an automatic process. So systems allow us to do that. And it's very key in our health journey because there's so many things that are pulling at us, that are pushing us to do and to not be involved in what we need to do for our health, okay? So the importance of systems is that they cause consistency. They help us with consistency. They allow us to automate. Even they will allow us to evaluate the things that we're doing to see if there are changes that need to be made. You can tell how long it's going to take you to do something. You can tell what the steps are. You know, those standard operating procedures that we talk about in all other areas, you can do that when we talk about health as well. And so being sure that you are doing the things you need to do to be consistent, very important, and putting those systems in place allows you to not have to worry. You don't have to be reminded and you don't have to feel overwhelmed, okay? A well-structured system supports health. It supports you in what you do, in doing the things that set you up for health success. So that's what systems are. So what are some benefits to systems when it comes to our health journey? Well, number one, it minimizes decision fatigue. Remember, decision fatigue is that thing that happens to us when the brain says, I don't want to make any more decisions. When you've gone to work or at home and you're constantly making those decisions, it's easy for us to now fall into the pattern of just the simplest, easiest, most convenient thing. So often when we have to make decisions about our health, what to eat, get up in the morning to exercise, journaling. The brain, if it has to make a decision between doing that thing and not, if it is a decision, the most likely thing that will happen is that the brain will say, yeah, let's not do that, okay? Because it's tired of making a decision, and the easiest, the path of least resistance, is to continue to do what it's been doing all the time, right? It falls into those patterns. And so when we have systems in place that automate the process, then the decision fatigue goes away. I shouldn't say that it goes away. It gets easier for us to do because we don't have to struggle between our desire for rest, for example, or desire for that chocolate cake, and the decision of doing what we need to do for our bodies, because it's already done. It's already built into the process. So number one, it minimizes decision fatigue. For example, a morning routine system includes hydration. It includes stretching. It includes breakfast, maybe, right? And it allows you to start with key elements that you then don't have to make a decision. I remember when I was in medical school and I was getting ready to take my boards, I went away to a program. And one of the things that the instructor told us to do was to make sure that the night before the exam, we laid out the clothes we were gonna wear. We decided what breakfast we were gonna wear. We decided what route we were gonna take. In fact, he had us drive down to the testing center the days before so that we knew exactly where it was. And at the time, it didn't make sense to me. But later on, and as he explained, it was because he didn't want us to have to make any extra decisions. He didn't want us to make any decisions that would use up decision-making power or ability. And so all those things were already predefined. And so when we have a process, when we have a system, then all those things are taken away. So decision fatigue goes away. It increases our efficiency. When you have a system in place, there's not extra time, extra actions that are taken between doing things. We know the steps are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's done. It's already been evaluated. We may even have decided among several ways of doing a particular thing that this is the most effective. This is the one that is the best. And so we don't have to worry about extraneous extra steps. And the process allows us to be efficient when we're doing whatever it is. So walking, and I'll give you an example, right? So we've been now at this 41 days. And there are times when I could easily have done it in the morning, walked in the morning, or even at lunchtime, right? If something came up. But there were times I could not walk in the morning. I had to do it later because I had not sat down and printed out the notes. I had done the notes. I have looked at them, but because I hadn't printed it out, I could have grabbed it, walked outside and started shooting, right? But because I didn't have it in my hand, I decided, okay, I was gonna do it later. So having a system now of getting my notes out is a way of maintaining efficiency and also a way of helping me to be consistent. The next thing is it builds consistency and healthy habits. This is a big one. Consistently following the system ingrains, develops, helps to connect some new neurons, muscle memory, if you will. It helps us to develop those systems that may not come naturally or may be a challenge for many of us. You know, if you are trying to get up in the morning to go exercise and you've never done that, but that's what you want to do, when you have a system that allows you to do that consistently, then all of a sudden As I mentioned before, you're waking up before the alarm goes off because you've built it into your system, and the system helps you to grow. It strengthens your healthy habits. It allows you to make fewer mistakes and fewer choices that you have to make, and that allows you to move in that direction more efficiently. For example, establishing a system to exercise at the same time every day, right? Now, I've mentioned to you that I do it when I have the time because of meetings and because of other things. But if you are one who needs to have a particular time, then having a system that creates that environment for you, that creates the space for you, may be an important thing for you. And so having a system that does that is important. It also allows adaptability and growth. Now, this one I love. I've said, and we've talked, that anything that we want to change, anything that we want to improve, we want to make sure that we can evaluate, okay? If you have a system in place, then the evaluation, first of all, is much simpler because you have a way of looking at it that is objective, right? It takes you 10 minutes, it takes you 5 minutes, it takes you an hour to do a particular thing. Is that valid, right? Or are there places where I am not being efficient? I can now evaluate that and I can change. If something is not working, then I can go and I can adjust that. I could twist, I can pivot, I can turn around, I can add some more steps in there. It allows me to grow. So as the system becomes better and better, now I look at ways and say, hey, you know what? I thought this was the best way of doing it, but maybe there's a different way. Maybe there's a more efficient way. And now I have time because my efficiency has gone up, right? See, notice what's happening. That because I have a system that allows me to adapt, allows me to grow, allows me to not to have to worry about decision fatigue, that allows me to be more efficient, now I have time. I can expand. I can evaluate objectively the things that I'm doing and decide if that's where I want to be, okay? As your health goals evolve, you may find that your system needs to change. If you are walking, as we're doing, 100-day walk, at the end of the 100-day walk, you may say, you know what? I'm going to start jogging. Notice what's happening. Or I may start rowing. We have some people who are going along with us, and they're not walking, but they're rowing. I have one of our community members that's doing that, right? This allows you to keep your processes evolving, but also keep them efficient. So how do we create systems for healthy success? Well, number one, we want to identify key routines and habits. So in anything that you're doing, there are some basic structural things that you want to do, okay? So if we're going to exercise, we want to stretch. We want to make sure that we're hydrated. We want to make sure that we're rested. We want to make sure that we are not doing anything that's going to overexert or cause damage to our bodies. So some basic things that you've got to do. If you are playing basketball, there are certain key elements that go into learning how to shoot, how to guard, how to box out, right? And so all of those things that we are doing within our health, we want to identify the key elements that we need. And those are the elements that we begin building into the structure of our system. When we talked about evaluating, right? One of the keys to evaluating was to know what was really needed for a particular thing. And so in our health, we want to identify those habits that give us the biggest bang for our buck, right? Like exercising, eating a balanced meal, remaining hydrated. These are ideal items that you want to make sure that you're building into your structure. If you are improving your hydration, how do you go about doing that? What is the system for that? Well, maybe you buy one of those containers, those water containers that tells you how much water you should be drinking at a particular time of the day, right? I have someone in our office who used to have one, and they would fill it up, and it would say, you know, by 10 o'clock you need to be at this line. At lunch you need to be at this line. At supper you need to be at this line. And so it was a way for them to be able to evaluate whether they were achieving what they needed. And so identify key habits or routines that need to happen so that you can be successful in the system. And then break it down, each routine, into smaller segments, right? That's the whole idea that we had in our discussion when we talked about making bite-sized activities that set us up for success. So outline each task that's required for your routine to be successful, to make it easier, to make it swallow, allow you to follow it. Because if we try to take those big giant bites, that itself can become overwhelming, and then the system doesn't work. Remember, the system is designed to make things easy. So as you're building the system, the items that are in the system should be easily manageable, easily doable by you. And if you're trying to show someone else, right, those standard operating procedures, it should be easily followed. So if it's very complicated, your brain is going to revolt and it's not going to want to do that. The next thing is to automate when possible. So there are some things that are repeatable, that you do the same thing over and over and over and over again. So approach those like reminders, okay? Put it on your phone. Don't rely on your brain to remind you to wake up. Don't remind you of your brain to remind you to go to the grocery store to shop or to prep on Sundays or whenever you're gonna prep for food. Automate the process. Make it easily doable. Build it into your day. Build it into your life. Make checklists. You know, one of the things that we sometimes have to talk to people around us about is checklists, because nobody, well, I should say nobody. A lot of people think they don't need a checklist. Those are for children. Those are for babies. I have a good memory. When I go to the airport and I get on the airplane and I'm flying, you know, one of the things that gives me comfort is knowing that the people up front, the pilot and his team, they've gone through the checklist. Because they know that we got enough gas. They know that the flaps are working. They know that they've tested the engines. They know that the electrical system is working. They know that the communication system is working. I don't want to get on a plane where they didn't do a checklist. And so in our lives, checklists are a great way to do that because it helps to automate the process. So we went away, actually this past weekend. And so my son's with us and we're going through his suitcase for some things that he needed that he hadn't packed. And so one of the things that we said, hey, we need to get you a checklist. Go ahead and create a checklist on your phone so that it's not, I've got to remember to get all those things. You go through the checklist, and when the checklist is done, you're finished packing. When we go camping, got a checklist, because there's some things you can't be out under the stars and then decide, you know, getting ready to set up and you need a tarp, right? You better have brought that with you. So lots of things. So checklist, very important. Automate it when possible. If healthy eating is your focus, for example, use a meal planner. Use an app that helps you track whether you're doing macros, certain number of protein, grams of protein, how many meals you're gonna have, what's the composition of the meal, all of those types of things. Now, there are people who track their calories. I don't go do calorie tracking, but if you do, and that's part of what you are using, then automate the process. There's so many apps out there now that do lots of different things, okay? And then batch similar health habits. That's what I was talking about with prepping. So don't try to cook the meal every single day. If you got to go to the grocery store that day and come home, you got to wash, you got to clean, you've got to prep, you've got to cook, then you've got to eat. The likelihood is that one of those days, or on many of those days, your brain's going to say, you know what? Yeah, we're not doing that today. Let's just go grab. Let's just go grab something. And so we end up not sticking to our plan, not because we didn't want to, but because we didn't automate the process. We didn't make it simple. So if you're going to eat healthily, then maybe you want to batch on Sundays. You want to go to the store, you want to shop, you want to prep, you want to put some stuff in the freezer, put some stuff in the refrigerator. Even if you don't cook it that day, it's ready for when you want to cook, right? And this allows you, once again, that decision fatigue, because if you are not having to make the decision at the time, then the likelihood of you eating healthily or on the plan that you thought you wanted or you've prepared, the likelihood that you're going to do that is very high, okay? So batching minimizes the work that you've got to do, right? So you get the stuff, say it's vegetables, you wash them all together, you clean it, you chop it up, and you divide it up. Say I'm having this on Monday and Wednesday and the next Saturday, whatever the schedule is. But otherwise, you go to the grocery store, you buy the vegetables today for today, you've got to clean them, you've got to chop them up, and then you decide you're going to do it on Wednesday. You go to the grocery store, you buy it, you got to clean it, you got to chop it up, right? So you're doing twice or three times the work in prep, okay? And cooking. So, right, so batch. And then review and refine. There is nothing that says that what you're doing right now has to be forever. I'm gonna pause there, because a lot of times when we get into some routine or we see something that seems to be working, we never go back to evaluate. Now, that's not to say that it doesn't work, not to say that it's maybe not even the best choice for what you're doing. But if you never evaluate it, if you never review it, if you never look at it again, you never know if it's time to change. And anything that you're trying to improve, you want to be sure that you're evaluating and that you are adjusting, right? There may be times that you need to pivot. The other thing is, remember we talk about growth? Well, if you do things the same way all the time, you never see, and you never evaluate, you never see whether this is an opportunity to grow. Maybe you can add another 5 pounds to what you're lifting. Your body's gotten used to this. You've reached the maximum ability with that set of weights. Or, as I mentioned, walking. Now we started out doing 20-minute miles, right? So 3 miles an hour. Maybe now you can do a 15-minute mile or a 10-minute mile. Now maybe you can jog. Maybe you can run. Now maybe you can cycle, right? But if you're never evaluating, you never know when those times have arrived, okay? If you've been consistently preparing meals, but you find it too time-consuming, adapt the system. Maybe you simplify the meals, right? Maybe you get somebody else to shop, or maybe you elicit the help of someone else to do the cutting, the cleaning, the chopping, the prep, right? All of that stuff, so that you can concentrate on what you need to do, what you need to put your energies and your time in. Remember, our goal is consistency. And anything that we can do that improves that, anything that we can do that makes that process automated and makes it simple, that is definitely what we want to do, okay? So how do you create a system? You want to identify those key habits and routines. You want to break it down, each routine into manageable steps, small steps. All right, outline each step, remember, so that you know, is that the right thing? Is that the best thing? Is that the most efficient thing? Automate where possible. Find places where you're doing repeated steps and make that an automatic process. Batch similar activities, right, similar tasks that you want to do, and then always review and refine your system. If you do that, then you are setting yourself up for maximum success. Remember, a well-constructed system supports your health, supports your goals, supports your habits, even when motivation dips. Let me say that again. So even when there are times when your motivation goes down, because maybe you haven't seen all the benefits that you thought, or something else is going on in life, or you're just fatigued. If the system is there, if the system is in place, then the likelihood that you continue working, continue doing it is higher. But if there's no system, it's easy to stop. It's easy to not continue making those strides. All right, so we can't go anywhere without doing our challenge. So our challenge today is this. And remember, we're always documenting, we're always journeying. So grab your piece of paper out, grab your journal out. And number one, you want to choose a health task to systemize. So find something that you're currently doing. It could be a challenge, or maybe you're succeeding at it, right? And you want to make it easier, and you want to set it up so that it continues to be simple and continues to be workable for you. So select a task that supports your health, whatever it may be: hydration, exercising, meal planning, cooking, relationship, any of those things. You want to outline the steps, as we talked about. All right, look at it and say, okay, what are the steps that I need to go through for this? Break it down into simple tasks. What are some simple parts of it that are manageable that I can then do? Then you want to add reminders and automate. Put reminders on your phone. Develop some checklists that allow you to go through, and some things that are going to remind you. You may even elicit the help of family or friends. Join a group, join a support group, join a community. All of those are things that will help support your system, right? So set up reminders, automate whatever you can, so you can make it easy to follow. And then you want to test your system. So try it out, right? Anything that you do, if it's just on a piece of paper, that's all it is. It's an idea. But it comes to life when you take action, when you get in there and you start to follow it. So try to follow the system today, right? Don't wait till next week. Don't wait till a month from now. So try the system out and tweak it. Look at it. Decide. So here's a big one. If it works, or if it's looking like it's going to work, or you went through it and you're like, man, I don't know about this. Tweak it, adjust it, and then commit to trying it. Give it a good try. Don't say, okay, well, it didn't work today, so I'm not doing it anymore, right? Decide, okay, I'm going to do this system for the next week, the next 2 weeks, the next 3 weeks. Consistency. One of the things that we're doing, right? 100-day walk to consistency. This takes commitment. This takes you deciding that I am going to do something for my health. I'm going to set myself up for success. I'm not just allowing anything to happen to my body or anything to disrupt my desire to be healthy. Okay? So commit to your system. Practice your system for the next day, 2 days, next 2 weeks, and see how it works. In all of that, you want to document your successes, document the things that are working, document the places where you're having some challenges, so that you can then look back and decide whether you need to make a change, whether you need to add some things, and always be willing to ask for help, right? Find a community that is heading in the direction that you want to go. Drop us a message in our community and we will get back to answering those questions. All right, so it was a great conversation. These are the things that we do that set us up for success. Remember, our goal is to find whatever we can that's going to add another piece to that puzzle that allows us to do successfully what we need to do for our health and for our life, okay? So creating systems is a powerful way of automating, a powerful way to free up memory, free up decision-making power, free up time because it makes us efficient. All of the things that you do when you set a system up are things that are necessary. You've got to evaluate it. You've got to decide on goals. You've got to break it up into smaller components. You've got to journal. You've got to write it down, come up with the process. You've got to try it out. You've got to evaluate it, and then you got to change. You got to twist. You got to adjust if you need to, or pivot, as they say. Okay? So when you set a system up, all of those skills come into play. Remember, we are not just listening, we are implementing. What you do is where the rubber meets the road. Once again, theory is on the paper, theory is on the video, but it comes to life when you take time and you begin implementing it in your life. Hey, I'm just so excited that you're here. I'm glad that you are with me on this 100-day walk to consistency. We're coming back. We're coming back tomorrow. Hey, this is Dr. Dwain Woode. That's Wood with an E. Here I educate, I empower, and I encourage you to take charge of your health and your life, avoid complications, and go to the next level. We're in this space, learning how to be resilient, to build a better version of ourselves, to be consistent. We'll see you tomorrow on day number 42. All right.